times of peace and times of war, is there a difference what weapons are for? Which are for battle and which are for travel? That's a subject I'd like to unravel. Hey again friends, Lauren here. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since I did a video. I've tried recording and not been happy, and you gotta go with your gut, and my gut said, too long, too rambly, and so I haven't put out the content, but I'm back today, and we're going to talk about self-defense versus combat in the range of weapons, particularly for medieval Europe, but we can touch on other areas. This all comes from Ajith Sidhu, who had asked in the comments of the carrying hammers and maces, how will you fight? How do you defend yourself with these weapons? And the short answer is these aren't really self-defense weapons over here. The mace and the hammer, as awesome as they are, as cool as it is to swing them and smash produce and all sorts of things, they're not self-defense weapons. These aren't everyday carrying weapons. These aren't things that you would have on you unless you were going to war, unless you knew there was the threat of conflict. So you don't see a lot of information on how to use these, especially in the medieval European fight manuals. These are combat weapons. And there may have been manuals about how to use these things. We can extrapolate some information from poleaxe, or there's some club information, but we should set them aside. It would have been cool to throw them, but they're heavy and damaging. We're not going to throw them. But one thing that you probably have all over the place is a stick. So if we want to talk about, oh yeah, all these medieval weapons and how you could defend yourself, let's talk about the stick to start with. I know, doesn't seem that impressive, but anything that's stick or club-like can allow you to defend yourself. So if you are looking to the past to get information on something that you could use today on how you use it and defend yourself, a stick is a pretty good thing. In Fiore's manual, here's Fiore's Flower of Battle, we have bastoncello. Bastoncello, or stick, has a system you can defend yourself against someone with a dagger, and you think, oh, a dagger is, sharp and pointy and dangerous, but you can use the stick a little close to the camera to give the full effect. But you can use the stick to, take the opposing weapon out of the way and hit your opponent. So the stick is awesome. One of the things that I studied when I was younger, which I was still old, but younger than today, Kali, Eskrima, stick fighting, using your Eskrima to, 2 sticks, 1 stick, various techniques that you can use with anything. So anything that you find that is stick-like is probably your best thing to train with if you want a weapons-based self-defense. I'd probably recommend that you just learn unarmed self-defense. And the best self-defense really is running away from. And that's really what I want to stress in the video as well. I'm not encouraging you to carry weapons. I don't want you to walk around armed to the teeth, ready to defend yourself. That's not the point. And in a medieval context from Europe, it probably wasn't a lot of people jumping out of bushes, robbing people on the trail anyway. You traveled in groups. You usually had weapons on you, which we'll talk about in a little more detail about what's on you. And yeah, people weren't really fighting in that sense. They weren't always robbing you for your coin. Movies, TV, Robin Hood stuff, video games, role-playing games, it's a trope. Oh, there are bandits everywhere, and they want the easy life, so they'll just rob you. They'll just be thugs and take your money and, threaten you. Not really like that. I mean, if you have bandits starting in an area, pretty quick a local lord is going to levy up some troops and go out there. And bandits probably aren't going to want to be bandits for very long. It's not necessarily a good life, okay? But walking sticks, maybe something about 1 meter or 3 feet. You probably had that. It may have been, just shaped from a piece of wood, a knobbly end. It makes a good club. Irish stick fighting is something that a lot of people still train in today. That could be, where you want to go. But of course, I would probably recommend just learn some unarmed stuff. Learn enough to get you out of a situation and run away. Just know enough to keep yourself safe and go. But this is, an arms and armor video. And we want to know. Well, we could have a walking stick like a staff. Sometimes when I go hiking, I like to take a quarterstaff with me because it is excellent for leverage to, on certain trails that are particularly steep or rocky. You can use it, press down, and really use your upper body then to push as well as your legs, and, you can ascend easier. And when you're moving down a particularly steep trail, you can put the staff in front of you to help steady you so you're not slipping and falling down the rocks. Plus, it makes an excellent self-defense weapon, and people see you carrying a staff, and they're not going to bother you when you're out hiking. You're probably a good conversation starter. You should always smile and be polite and friendly. But I'm not going to take a sword for self-defense. Yes, we know that swords and Langsmesser, here's the Langsmesser, a long knife with the nagel. In the 15th century, we know that, there are, sword and buckler combination. Certain people may have been allowed to carry them. Certain people could afford them. Not that a used sword is very expensive in medieval context, but that's not the point of this video. Point being, if we want to look to the past to inform us how to defend ourselves today, a stick, a staff, probably good. But in the medieval context, the knife probably is the biggest self-defense weapon. Okay, mentioned, what are you carrying? Are you armed? Do you have a weapon? Well, you'll probably have a tool called a knife. And you'll have your knife with you because smaller knives, maybe not so big as this Bauernwehr, but smaller knives are used as tools or for eating, and men and women will have that knife with them. And knowing how to effectively defend, turning with the edge to bite into the opposing blade, and cut the arm, the hand of someone attacking you, injuring them just enough to make them think twice about what they're doing and have them run away or give you time to run away. That's really what it would be about. So everyone has a knife. And knowing this, you're not going to have a bunch of people hiding in the bushes, jumping out at every traveler, because every traveler probably has a knife on them. Some travelers, particularly men of certain statuses, will have a dagger, because it is a display of wealth as much as a tool, a weapon of war, and of self-defense. So we're not going to have a lot of people carrying swords all over the place, but we'll probably have a lot of people carrying daggers, especially in towns. You might be allowed to carry a dagger if you have the right status as a successful merchant, as a freeholder of the land. You have your own land that you farm, and you've come into town, you might be able to have a dagger. Maybe not a rondel dagger, although certainly this is very popular in all of our source manuals. So 14th, 15th, 16th century, we're going to see a lot of information on how to fight with the dagger and a lot of unarmored stuff. So we can see how people are defending themselves with this. But are they defending themselves on the road from bandits? Probably not. Are they with their groups, fellow workers? Are they with, their guild members and getting into an argument with members of another guild? Maybe there's dispute as to who gets to make this certain new thing and what guild it falls under. And what happens after a few drinks at the alehouse? Someone pulls a dagger and you've got to defend yourself. So there's a lot of techniques on how to defend yourself unarmed against a dagger, because maybe you don't want to pull a dagger against someone, or maybe you don't have one. And there's information on how to use the dagger to defend yourself against, and, to stab your opponent. Not necessarily you're sitting there trying to kill your opponent, but you're trying to defend yourself and deter the person from continuing their attack. And that's really what self-defense comes down to, is getting out of the situation. But the fact is, there's a lot of information from Fiore, maybe we're looking at Marazzo. We've got a whole bunch of different sources that talk about fighting with daggers. I could go on and on about them, but then I'd have to re-record the video yet again because I've prattled on too long about that. But the point is, when we think about self-defense, it's usually a knife or something small that you have, or it's something simple like a staff or a stick. It's not going to be the case that we're always carrying something like a warhammer. And I know, oh, could I have a warhammer cane? Well, that would be really cool to have. But should you be walking around with that all the time? It's probably going to get you into some trouble. Even if it's legal, people aren't going to look positively upon this really sharp, pointy spike and these sharp points on the hammer end. you know, you don't need a sword cane. When we think about the past, when we think about now, we would like to be more civilized. So, as awesome as this dragon hammer is, I can't recommend that you have this as a self-defense weapon. Okay? Because it is a weapon for war. It is a weapon for combat. We don't even have manuals to teach us how to specifically use warhammers and maces. It doesn't exist. We have maybe a pole axe or pole hammer, and we have a little bit of stuff on clubs so that we can extrapolate to how you might swing a mace. But even then, you know, a steel mace versus a wooden club, very different. Very different for defending yourself versus fighting on the battlefield. So just wanted to give you something to think about. You can go over this kind of things, change your perspective. Movies show us a lot of stuff, but movies have to be exciting. And the reality of life is traveling between towns is probably pretty boring, just really tiring. But you might have your knife and your walking stick, and you could defend yourself with those things, and that would keep you safe. Anyway, friends, thank you for your patience while I got sorted out to making this next video. Do remember, like, subscribe, and of course comment. We had comments that shape the content of this video, and comments will shape future videos, because I want to make what you want to know about. So that's what I'm going to do. And for now, I do have to say, take care, stay safe, and keep on swinging.